the book of Romans. It'll be coming from the 2nd chapter and the 8th chapter. Not a directive or pinpointed message. It only has one point. And you kind of have to search for it. There's some things within the message that are there for your consideration. And listen as I read to you beginning in chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man, whosoever thou art that judgest. For wherein thou judgest another person or another, thou condemnest, or you condemn thyself or yourself. For you that judgest does the same thing. Now think about this. Then as we look at the 8th chapter and the 7th verse, here's the thrust, here's the hurtful part. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be. Now, here's what I want you to see with me. Because of the carnal mind. How many times do you and I hear that? Preachers up there in the pulpit just venting hellfire and damnation and bringing up this subject about carnal mind. Man, those are big words. And you know, you're really sitting out there, this is the way it was with me. What the heck does all this mean? You know, there's times you have to be honest with yourself. What the heck does he really mean? Do you really understand all these big words that are coming at you? Do you really know what they mean? Well, if you go to Merriam-Webster's dictionary and you look up the word carnal, it's defined as something to do with what? The body. Well, that's as clear as mud. But let me tell you, when you pick up this Bible and you open it and you begin to look to see what God has to say, carnal is defined as a fleshly, it's a fleshly something. And that fleshly something is referring to your body as a seat of attitudes and appetites. Now, boy, that pretty well sums me up, because that's what I am, is attitude and appetite, baby. I mean, that hit home. I know what the man's talking about. In here, I got all kinds of appetites. And brother, I got all kinds of attitudes. It was the seat. In here, this carnal is my seat of what I want. Now, that's not good, brother. In a way, that's a bad sense. Because, let me tell you, if I get to thinking that God's watching, Roy, that makes me uncomfortable. Are you with me? If God's watching me, it makes me uncomfortable. Because I can't do what I want. I can't exercise the appetite if I've got a God complex. But what if I don't have a God complex? Then I can do what I want to. I can fulfill the seat of my appetites. Are you with me? Now, that never changes. If you don't have anything to stop you or watch you, then what you are in here and in here will never change. Because you always want to satisfy your appetites. In other words, brother, you are incurable. That's what God is telling you in the Bible from day one. You've got an incurable condition, and that condition is carnal. And what that really means is, brother, you're independent of God. Your actions are independent of God. Now, I always liked this once I understood it. In that 19th verse, Paul wrote the following. And you know, I never really understood that. See, Paul was our Christian hero. Are you with me at this point? But he was at one time Saul of what? Tarsus. He was trying to kill Christian people as quick as he could, as fast as he could. And Paul wrote this message to us. Paul said, don't you try to shuck my corn. Don't you try to fool me, because I've been there and done that. I've got the original rusted tin can. You can't fool me. And this is what Paul wrote. He said here in the scripture, in verse 19, for the good that I would do, I what? What I ought to do good, I don't do it. But the evil, in other words, that which I like to do, those things that are the seed of my desires, what is it? But the evil which I would not, Paul said, I've done it. I don't know why, but it's satisfying. Now, let me share something with you directly out of the Bible. God's greatest gift to you was free choice. Are you aware of that? But when God gave you free choice and me free choice, guess what I experienced? I learned exactly what carnality is and that it's incurable in me. I like that old theory, my way or the highway, baby. I like the truck driver's philosophy. If it feels good, what? But somebody is watching me. And that makes me very uncomfortable. But let me share something that if you have never heard it this way, please hold on to this thought. See, God knows that I'm incurable. And God recognized the fact how rotten Roy is and how Roy likes to have things in his life. And he recognized that I've got a weakness. And God realized that that weakness, Satan would surely exploit it. Now, God then decided that that very tool he gave me, called freedom of choice, God was going to use that, if I can say it in this crude manner, to beat Satan's brains out with it. Because you have freedom of choice to choose you this day whom you will what? Serve. Good. You got that down good. Now, what I want to do is give you one other reminder, and then we'll share a story with you. As a believer, we have this inward nature that continues. I mean, it's human nature, but your inward nature continues to influence every decision that you make. Are you aware of that? Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, or whether you at play. And it's an absolute teetotal struggle on my behalf and yours every day that we live to meet that challenge. And you know, when you look around you, you see a lot of your Christian friends and neighbors falling flat on their face. And it's a daunting challenge that we have every day because of that old nature. We're inclined, now watch this, this is what I want you to hear. because of the old nature in you and me, you and I are inclined to say, well, what is it? For maximum impact, you let your alligator mouth override your hummingbird brain. We say a lot of things. We say wrong things. To no end, the blunders that we commit are catastrophic. They occur in our family, between our wives, family, friends, in business. They happen in the church. They split up communities. They tear apart relationships because of the things that we say. We wreck relationships. Churches are destroyed. Now, I want to tell you a story about a mother. We're all susceptible to messing it up big time. Even preachers. There's a mother, she's got 3 daughters. Those girls are 12, 14, and 17. And it's back in around 1945. And it's during the Easter season. The season is coming forward. The father is away from home serving in World War II. And it's tough making ends meet. It's not easy. Now listen carefully to what I'm saying. And one Sunday morning when they were there at the church, the preacher is in the pulpit saying what a great thing it would be if they got up a special offering, a love offering, to give to some poor, needy family. Good, an outreach from the church. Well, on the way home after church, the mother said to the girls, you know, I wonder if there isn't something that we couldn't do to contribute to this need in the church and in the community. And so the more they talked, the more excited they got. The girls came up with all kinds of plans to make some money. They would get her done, but they would be able to help contribute to the church. And the mother even said, well, if you girls are willing to do this, then what I will do, I will cut back around the house. I will make pot holders. And maybe we can sell a few pot holders and contribute to the need there at the church. And on that, when the week ended, they were down at the bank and they contributed everything to the bankers and they counted their money out, and each of the girls received a brand spanking new crisp $20 bill. 20, 20, 20. And the mother, for her efforts, she got a brand spanking new $10 bill. Now when they went to church and that offering was called for, the mother placed that envelope in the special offering plate, and the girls left church. They were ecstatic with joy. They'd been able to contribute and do something to help somebody. They got home on Sunday afternoon. They heard a knock on the front door. Lo and behold, peeked through the window, there's a preacher. When they opened the door, the preacher handed her this envelope and said, look, this is a little something the church wanted you to have. Make life easier for you. Then the pastor turned around, walked off the porch, and was gone. The mother's standing there looking at an envelope that looks real familiar to her. She opens the envelope up. She looks into the envelope. She sees 3 brand new, crisp $20 bills and a new 10 and 17 old, ratty, wrinkled up dollar bills. Now those girls broke down and wept in tears. And they informed their mother, we're the poor family. And I'm not going back to that church. They will never, ever again see me set foot into that sanctuary. the mother said to him, "Oh, yes, you will too." So the mother kept the envelope, and they waited until the following Sunday. She dressed them up, marched them down to church. They had a guest speaker from Africa. He was a missionary. He pleaded during his sermon that they needed a roof put on that little church there in Kenya, South Africa, and that he would appreciate anything that the church might be able to do to help. Any amount of money that they might be able to contribute. And so, when the service was over, the mother walked down the aisle, had that envelope, and handed it to that missionary pastor. And when the service was ended and the pastor went into the study to help the missionary count the money, he was looking at a very familiar envelope. When he opened it, he discovered 17 ratty $1 bills, 3 crisp new $20 bills, and 1 $10 bill. The poor family, he immediately knew, had contributed what? The church had given 17 $1 bills. Now, you know, I can imagine how awful they must have felt. They were a poor family. But what catastrophic blunders are made by people who wear the cloth, the so-called goody two-shoed people. Now listen carefully. But the same people, the poor white trash, so to speak, were the ones that gave the most. Listen very carefully to this thought. Out of James, the 3rd chapter, that letter that James wrote, this is what he said. Out of the mouth proceedeth blessings and cursings. My brother, these things ought not so to be.
Amen.
Allow me to read scripture this morning to you. Comes out of Genesis, the 3rd chapter. And from that 3rd chapter, we look at the 15th verse. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Let me tell you what kind of catastrophic mistakes that we make. You know what this verse of Scripture really means here? Let me tell you, Eve had already convinced herself that her giving birth to Cain and Abel was going to get her back in to the garden that she'd been put out of. Let me ask you this question. Do you remember what Cain did to Abel? Yeah, he killed him. See what kind of catastrophic blunders we're capable of making? May we have a word of prayer. Now, our Father, this morning, as we head into the conclusion of the message, life is oftentimes characterized by a lot of difficulties that are caused by catastrophic verbal blunders that we make. But one thing Paul assured us, that God's always faithful, through whom you and I are called into a fellowship with His Son, Jesus. Now, to say God's faithful means that He's always going to do exactly what He said He's going to do, no matter how deep and how dark and how depressing and hopeless a thing that we've done in our life.